Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite for December the 9th, 2020. Johnny Boy in the chat room has already sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that. He says TikTok. TikTok like the service TikTok, but of course that can also be a reference to Kross. A few big things happened on NXT, so I will talk about NXT real quickly here before I get to Dynamite. The big story coming out of the NXT episode is that Kross is back. And we expected him to be back. Triple H even indicated that he would be back very soon last week. We had Finn Balor come out for a promo, the NXT World Champion. He's back as well. We had the typical WWE interruptions with Pete Dunne coming to the ring, Kyle O'Reilly, and Damian Priest. The three of them were arguing about who should be next in line to challenge Balor. Balor took his leave, and when he was on the stage, out came Scarlett. She got in his face, and we had a little bit of a tease for Karrion Kross, who did not appear in that opening segment. But later on, we had Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, and Austin Theory in the ring. Big celebration segment because of the women on Candice's team victorious at the War Games pay-per-view. This segment ended with Damian Priest coming out, and he was ready to fight Austin Theory. And he asked Theory if Theory still had the pipe, because he was going to take that pipe and shove it up Theory's ass. Of course, Theory used the pipe as Ghostface during the pay-per-view. But as Priest was getting ready to go to the ring, he was attacked by none other than Karrion Kross. Kross beat the crap out of him, picked up Priest, and powerbombed Priest off the stage onto a table below. And then him and Scarlett got into a car and drove off. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, I hope you never get a TikTok account. There are two accounts that I have no interest in ever signing up for: Snapchat and TikTok. Like, those two, not for me. Although I guess if there was a way to increase awareness of my business, maybe I would use those services, but I've never had any interest in those. Anyways, nice to see Karrion Kross back. NXT has their New Year's Evil special. Very cool logo, by the way. That is coming up on January 6th. And interestingly enough, AEW has a counter for that. AEW will be doing a 2-week special event, and this one will be called New Year's Smash. The first one will be on Wednesday, December 30th, and then the second night will be up against NXT's New Year's Evil. So it's Smash versus Evil, and AEW will be having Snoop Dogg appear on that second week. Interesting, because we just had Snoop Dogg with The Undertaker, and of course Snoop Dogg does vocals for Sasha Banks' current theme song. Interesting. So, let's get to AEW Dynamite. We got the Cleaver, Colin Andrew. Thank you, Colin, for moderating in the chat room, because sometimes we get those trolls. They like to come in and cause problems. Good to have a few people watching over the chat room. I very much appreciate it, Colin. And make sure you guys follow him, nodq.com/Colin. We kicked off with a match, Young Bucks versus the Hybrid 2, Jack Evans and Angelico. Before the match, the Bucks were interviewed about Kenny Omega becoming the new AEW champion. They said they really don't know what's up from him. They have not spoken to him. We had this match, which was really good. Very solid opener to kick off the show. Exactly the kind of match you would expect from these guys. Back and forth, lots of high-flying action. And Hybrid 2, they got a lot of offense in this match. There was one sequence where you had the Acclaim out there at ringside, and Evans was powerbombed over the barricade by Matt onto the Acclaim, who were on the outside. Of course, last week the Acclaim were part of a setup attack on the Bucks. And then the Bucks paid tribute to Legion of Doom. They busted out a Doomsday device on the ramp. They hit their super kicks to Angelico, who managed to kick out. Matt hurt his leg during the match, and Jack Evans took advantage of that. Angelico put on a submission to Matt, but Nick was able to make the save with a swanton, and the Bucks hit a spike pile driver on the outside to Evans, and then finished off Angelico in the ring with the BTE trigger. After the match, SCU came out to stop Acclaim from attempting to attack the Bucks. Maybe we'll get an 8-man tag team match at some point. Marshall Leonard, where's Caitlyn? Caitlyn was watching The Masked Singer or whatever shows are on Wednesday night, not AEW. We had a Darby Allin vignette, the current TNT champion, and he was shown by this psychiatrist, I guess, a bunch of ink blot pictures, and they were all pictures of wrestlers, and he basically saw them as members of Team Taz, and he challenged Brian Cage to a TNT championship match, and the last ink blot that was shown was very clearly Sting, and he just laughed. Back to the ring, we had Tony Schiavone interviewing Cody Rhodes, but before Cody could say anything, the lights went out, and Sting made his entrance with the snow, and Arn Anderson came up to Sting and said he just wanted to get close to Sting to make sure that this was all real. He then took his leave. Sting talked to Tony Schiavone. This was their big reunion, and Sting praised Tony, gave Tony credit for helping Sting over the years. The two of them hugged, and then we had "This is awesome" chants. Cody took over. He said, "Welcome back," and he's been waiting to share the ring with Sting for a very long time, basically marking out for him. Sting said he is not there for Cody, at least not yet. He then looked up. He said there's something that reminds him of the past. Something is familiar to him. He looked up. Darby Allin sitting up in the rafters, just like Sting used to do in WCW. And Sting talked about how he's in the jungle, and things have come full circle now that he's back on TNT. He said his old classic line from WCW, "The only thing that's for sure about Sting is nothing's for sure." Except he has signed with AEW, and he plans to be there for a long time. And he basically did not give a reason why he's there just yet. He did say that what he chooses to do, how he chooses to play, is his own business. And he said to Cody as he left, "See you around, kid." Very good segment here. I liked it. Little tease for Cody, a little tease for Darby Allin, but not giving away too much. Let it slowly build up. Good stuff here. Liked the reunion with Tony Schiavone and Sting. That was a nice touch. Backstage, we had Team Taz interviewed, and Hook was there, Taz's son. Ricky Starks put over Hook, talked about how Hook is training with them now, and Taz said that they are always ready to beat somebody's ass. Next up, we had FTR versus the Varsity Blondes, Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. The Varsity Blondes got a little bit of offense, but they're still on the lower tier, and FTR picked up the win pretty easily via the Goodnight Express. And afterwards, there was a little bit of a confrontation on the outside between FTR and the Jurassic Express. interesting to see where this goes. I'm curious to see how Pillman Jr. and Garrison continue to evolve in AEW. Hopefully they'll continue to get better in AEW and build their star power over time. I definitely see some potential. And yeah, Curtis Butler, I feel that's what it is. He said, is this a playoff of Varsity Club and Hollywood Blondes? I mean, that definitely seems like it's the case. I don't think it's any accident that they're called the Blondes. And yeah, the Varsity Club, an old school faction back in the old NWA/WCW days. There was a reunion. Probably nobody remembers this, but the Varsity Club actually did reunite during the Vince Russo period of WCW. And we'll be talking more about the Vince Russo period in just a minute here, because we had as our next match 10 versus Dustin Rhodes. Dustin was out there with Lee Johnson, another guy who's a prospect in AEW on the rise. He's part of the Nightmare family. And we even had Aaron Solo, another guy who's on the rise. He got kicked by 10. Not much to this match, you know. Dustin picked up the win pretty easily with the Bulldog. And then after the match, the Dark Order came out to try and recruit Dustin. And Evil Uno talked about how there's pressure on Dustin because he's only the third most important Rhodes in AEW. And he said they can change that. Evil Uno proposed that Dustin come to the Dark Order and become 7. Now, this of course was a WCW reference back to 1999 when Dustin Rhodes had this new gimmick, 7. He came to the ring on Nitro and basically said the gimmick sucked. So yeah, nice little reference here, although I wonder how many people, other than your most diehard wrestling fans, would have gotten this reference. But then again, it fit in with the Dark Order, so it really didn't matter if people at home did not get the WCW reference, because the Dark Order members all have a bunch of numbers, so yeah, 7 is just a lucky number. Anyways, Dustin declined it. He slapped Evil Uno, and Uno said that later down the line, Dustin will be begging for that opportunity. So we'll see what happens with that. We had Tony Schiavone at the DDP Yoga studio interviewing Brandi Rhodes and Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq was there to talk about this feud between Brandi and Jade Cargill. Shaq was sorry about what happened. He said while he has a history with Jade, he does not appreciate her attacking Brandi and injuring her arm. He then talked about Cody. Shaq said that he was just poking fun at Cody. It was all in good fun. He doesn't mean any disrespect to the Rhodes family. He was just messing around. And he talked about how he would like to see Brandi versus Jade. He'll be there for that match. But then he said maybe Brandi could learn a thing or two from Jade. Brandi got very offended by this, and she lost her cool. She picked up a cup of water and she dumped it onto Shaq and called him an overgrown asshole. Interesting segment here with Shaq getting water dumped on him. We'll see what the follow-up for this is, if Shaq will actually be there for the match, and that will maybe set up Cody versus Shaq at some point. TJS with a $3 super chat. Thank you for that, Tyler. He says, this show made me cringe too much, felt like Raw. I enjoyed Dynamite, but then again, Dynamite's a 2-hour show. If it was a 3-hour show, I might be more inclined to agree with you, Tyler. But thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. And next up, we had the Inner Circle come out for their big segment. Will they break up or will they stay together? Santana was not there. And Jericho said that Santana is so pissed about this situation, he didn't even show up to work. We had Jericho instruct everybody to air out their grievances. MJF said he loves the Inner Circle. They're all like brothers to him. And he said that despite what people think, he's not trying to break up the group. Sammy wasn't buying it. He was pissed off. MJF brought up the towel incident from last week. It said it was just a misunderstanding. Ortiz then became the voice of reason. He said that, well, he doesn't really like MJF and Wardlow as people. They are assets. They are great assets. And he said, like a fungus, MJF is starting to grow on him. Ortiz then instructed Sammy and MJF to shake hands and bury the hatchet. Sammy said he'll only shake hands because he trusts Chris Jericho's judgment. However, if there's another incident, he will quit the Inner Circle. Hager then just wanted to know why the hell Wardlow was staring at him, and Wardlow wanted to know the same about Hager. Maybe the two just actually like each other, and they're misunderstanding, they're misinterpreting that tension. But nonetheless, they don't like how they're staring at each other, and Jericho got them to stop staring at each other. And finally, Jericho got everybody to do the middle finger salute, and all was well, at least for now, in the Inner Circle. And Virtue's in the chat room. How's it going, Virtue? I'm sure you got a great amount of enjoyment out of this week's AEW Dynamite. We had FTR interviewed backstage about their win, and it was brought up how they lost at Full Gear. Cash Wheeler, he took responsibility because he tried to do the Young Bucks' high-flying moves, and that backfired on him. Tully said that's not exactly the case because Tully wasn't there, and they're a three-person unit. Dax Harwood managed to take a shot at Jungle Boy for being an idiot by jumping off the top rope during a battle royal. Hey, I'm with him on that one. And Harwood said they would be continuing to focus on becoming tag team champions once again and said, fear the revelation. We then had a six-man tag team match. Eddie Kingston, Butcher, and Blade versus Lance Archer and the Lucha Brothers. The good guys went right after the bad guys. We had a big brawl on the outside of the ring, but during all the chaos, Penta got suplexed through the table and was taken to the back by the referees and trainers. Interesting how Penta can take all this punishment, like in ladder matches and whatnot, but he gets suplexed through a table one time and he's taken away by officials. That's one of the few issues with AEW. Like, you would expect these guys to be near invincible after all the crazy punishments that they take and all the kick-outs out of every big move, and one superplex through a table and you're done for the night? Yeah, don't exactly buy it, but okay. So anyways, it was 2-on-3, and it went back and forth. Archer and Phoenix held their own, but in the end, Butcher and Blade hit the power bomb and neck breaker combo to score the victory over Phoenix. After the match, Archer attacked everybody because everybody dies. That's his motto. And he went for the blackout on Blade, but Butcher made the save, and the bad guys managed to flee the scene. No Pac on this show. No Pac last week, no Pac this week. I wonder if he'll be back next week. Yeah, kind of weird that he's already gone again. We had Nyla Rose and Jade attacking Red Velvet backstage, and we had a big brawl with several women. It was like 5 or 6 of them just brawling. Random segment here, I guess, to build up a match for next week. And then right at the 9:30 spot, actually this week 9:23, we had Abaddon with a quick victory over an enhancement talent. And then Sheeta came out after the match, hit Abaddon with a kendo stick, but then Abaddon did the Undertaker sit-up, and Abaddon got up. Sheeta took off, because that's what babyface champions do. They run away from a fight. Still not digging the women's division in AEW. Like, what are they doing here with Sheeta and Abaddon? Like, where's Thunder Rosa? Where's actually, I think somebody was in that brawl from the NWA. I think I'm forgetting who was involved in it. There was like 5 or 6 women, but anyways, still want to see more out of the women's division in AEW. We then had Jericho and Sammy Guevara backstage with the Inner Circle, and Jericho said that they would be at ringside to make sure that MJF retains his Dynamite Diamond ring. Then we had Kenny Omega and Don Callis arrive in a helicopter. Big world champion entrance. JR was talking about how they made an impact. Get it? And the announcers talked about how Omega broke the gentleman's agreement with Moxley because Moxley and Omega said there would be no outside interference, just a straight-up wrestling match, and that wasn't the case, damn it. Anyways, Justin Roberts did the big grand intro for Omega. So the question is, what's up with Justin Roberts? Like, this guy, you know, he's on the up and up. Why is he still doing this intro for Omega, who's this jackass now? Like, is Justin Roberts getting paid by Omega? Or does he actually endorse Omega? Is Justin Roberts sneakier than we believe? Or we are led to believe? We had Tony Schiavone in the ring interviewing Omega and Callis, and Tony said in all the years he's been in the business, since 1983, he has never seen anything more disgusting. What about Hulk Hogan? What about all the Vince Russo stuff in WCW? Really, Tony? I mean, I get it, what you're trying to do, but that was a bit of a stretch. Don Callis cut a promo. Now, people were asking me last night if I was going to recap the Impact Wrestling segment with Don Callis and Omega. And I said no, I would talk about it during this live stream. And for good reason, because what they said on Dynamite was basically the same thing they said on Impact, only a little bit shorter and more to the point. Basically the same exact promo. So really, if you missed Impact, you really didn't miss anything. You know, Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone did a little cute ad, a paid advertisement, a little reference to the NWO paid advertisements. You know, Tony Khan's a really big fan of WCW. You got to have all those WCW references. So yeah, Callis cut the same promo, and I'll recap what he said. Again, what was said on Impact was basically the same thing. Said that he swerved Tony Khan, and that, as far as Callis is concerned, that's Tony Khan's welcoming to the wrestling business, kid. And Callis said the same thing on Impact about how it took years of planning, and he mentioned the history between him and Omega, the friendship, and he watched Kenny become the best wrestler in the world, all the while being the invisible hand. And he brought up how Kenny Omega and Okada had that 7-star match that basically was the reason for AEW's existence, and said that, in a way, Omega and Don Callis, they created AEW. Omega then had his moment to talk, and he said that last week it was a 7-star match. It was a performance because everybody fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Even Jon Moxley. And he needed Jon to believe it, and that's how Don Callis came into play. And Omega said, yeah, he used the microphone, but nobody kicks out of the one-winged angel. That's the bottom line. And then Don used the same line again that he used from Impact, how some people make matches, but the two of them, they are there to make history. And then Omega did his so long, good night, bang, closing shtick, whatever he does. Same thing he did on Impact. So yeah, promo was good, but it was a repeat, just not in a trailer with Josh Matthews. And what's interesting is on Impact, Omega teased a big announcement. So the big announcement was they just said the same thing they said on Impact. So there you go. We had our main event segment, which was MJF versus Orange Cassidy for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. MJF, the heel that he is, went right after Orange Cassidy from the get-go. Orange missed an orange punch, hit the post, and that would affect him for the rest of the match. MJF powerbombed Orange Cassidy on the apron. Inner Circle was interfering, as Jericho promised. He attacked Orange Cassidy when the referee wasn't looking. Sammy Guevara threw Orange Cassidy into the post. After the commercial, the Best Friends got some reinforcements to even the odds on the outside of the ring, so it was pretty much a lumberjack match at this point. Orange Cassidy did a dive onto the Inner Circle members. MJF hit his finisher, the Heat Seeker, but Orange Cassidy managed to get out of it because while MJF was going for the cover, he had his feet on the ropes, and the Best Friends were able to let the referee know that MJF was cheating. Match continued, and Orange Cassidy hit the orange punch, but was not able to put away MJF. And there was a moment where MJF was trying to pull off an Eddie Guerrero where he had Jericho's bat, and then he fell to the ground and threw the bat to Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy just dropped the bat, and then MJF had the bat when the referee turned around and thought MJF did it. But the referee did not call for the bell because he did not see MJF actually use the bat. So the match continued. Orange Cassidy hit a second orange punch with his damaged hand, but then Wardlow put MJF's foot on the ropes to break the pinfall attempt, and then that's when all hell broke loose. Everybody started fighting, and while all this chaos was going on, Miro, wearing a sweater that made him look like the least intimidating man in the world, he came into the ring and he attacked Orange Cassidy. MJF put one arm over Orange Cassidy just like Shawn Michaels did to Undertaker in that first Hell in a Cell match, and picked up the victory to retain his Dynamite Diamond Ring. After the match was over, Miro and the Best Friends were fighting. Security was trying to break things up. Miro ended up attacking the security, throwing one of the security guys off the stage and standing there, looking intimidating in his not-so-intimidating sweater. And that, my friends, was the end of AEW Dynamite. Good show this week. I mean, could not level up to last week. I mean, that's expected, but pretty solid follow-up in my opinion. I did enjoy the show. I did think that a lot of the storylines were compelling. They're trying with Miro, but ditch the sweater. Like, the sweater needs to go. Seriously. Even when AEW is trying with Miro, it still did not come off as well as it could have. So I'm going to give the show a solid B this week. Good Dynamite, definitely worth checking out. NXT Scorpio agrees. Good show, B. Curtis Butler with a B. Kev also gives it a B. Jeremy Dorset says an A+ for both shows, so he's still heavily on board with both shows. Top tier, greatest Dynamite and NXT episodes of all time, or at least close to. I mean, if you're going to give it an A+, it's got to be pretty damn high. Lewis with an A. Maud W with a B. Israel Diaz with a B. Bruce Marvel 88 says B. Abaddon is cool and creepy. And Kim Hall with a B+, and Nathan Banks with a B. CC Drink says, I only watch Sting. That's it. So yeah, any final thoughts in the chat room? To sum it up, like in a sentence or two, give me your best take of AEW this week. What was the strongest part of AEW? What was the weakest? I'm going to let you guys in the chat room give me your final thoughts, and I will read off some of the comments. Colin Andrews said that he watched NXT. Well, thank you anyways for tuning in, and I do appreciate you guys tuning in. I know some people watch AEW, some don't. And some people like to watch just to get my thoughts, and then they'll watch accordingly. So I do appreciate your continued viewership and support. And again, if you have the opportunity, please spread the word. Just share a link to this video on social media, tell a friend, anybody you know who watches wrestling, have them check out this video. Kim Hall says, I liked the Inner Circle bit. Kev says, Sting segment was cool, but the women's division is whatever. And Steve-O says he gives it a B. Impact's aftermath was terrible, to be honest. And Elan Brown says, I liked the TH2 versus the Young Bucks. And I agree with that. That was a very solid opener for the show. So thank you guys for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com. Keep voting in the NoDQ year-end awards. And I will see you guys next time. Stay positive.